Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What's one thing you accidentally found out that now everyone has to know? Sudden hearing loss. It happens overnight in one ear, can happen at any age, and they don't know the cause. But if they treat it in 48 hours, you have a good chance of it returning. The longer you wait, the less likely you'll recover anything. I lost hearing in my right ear overnight at the age of 26. I didn't even realize until my mom called and I put the phone to my right ear, like always, and I couldn't hear her. I thought it was the phone until I put it to my left ear and could hear her fine. Autosclerosis for me. I am now 54 and completely deaf in my right ear and wear a hearing aid on the left. Surgery is an option if you do it before you sustain too much nerve damage. I didn't get to it in time. Thanks for educating us. This is the first time I ever heard of this. This happened to me at 26, but I thought it'd pass. I was on a cross-country road trip and figured it had something to do with altitude, but it didn't come back even after 4 different rounds of steroids. How is it treated? The article linked in the previous post says that corticosteroids are the first treatment. They may be used even before all the tests are complete. Brass doorknobs sanitize themselves. Glass doorknobs hold bacteria. Copper hates the tiny bugs most, followed directly by silver and zinc. The active ingredient in diaper rash cream is zinc. Used sparingly as an underarm deodorant, it'll outlast a summer day and half of another. Zinc oxide kills the 2 types of bacteria that cause underarm odor, Corynebacterium sp and Staphylococcus. Diaper rash cream killed a nail fungal infection my friend was having for over a year that didn't respond to heavy-duty oral antifungals. That said, I used it as an anti-deodorant and it killed so much bacteria that I started having adverse reactions for months after stopping because it destroyed my underarm skin's natural biome. Massive persistent rash breakouts that were unbearable. You know what's great for rash? Disper cream. Copper hates the tiny bugs most. Fun fact. Non-hormonal iodes use copper to prevent pregnancy. Sperm doesn't like copper. It changes the way sperm cells move so they can't swim to an egg. If sperm can't make it to an egg, pregnancy can't happen. A lot of traditional cookware food storage in old Indian households is either copper or brass. Apparently it's good for you. We still use the copper utensils made for my great-grandmother's wedding in the 30s. Silver also has antimicrobial properties. They used to make medical devices like tracheotomy tubes and catheters out of silver. Copper is apparently more effective, but also more likely to absorb to toxic levels in contact with bodily fluid. Cows have best friends. Love that for them. Pigs, too. Here is one that escapes every day to play ball with the dog cats. W Reddit, Comrade Madam Esmer Common Sire Tinklim 6, Came 6 Skip Dice He Scapes, Everted a Place Game. They also have regional accent. What? I'm about to go down the road and ask a cow if it has a Vermont accent. Not that I would know what that sounds like in comparison to a cow from a different state, but I kinda just wanna hang out with a cow. Whales have regional accents as well. There's one whale out there with a completely different tone. Scientists are hopeful that there is more than one, but it's never been seen. The loneliest whale. If you look it up, they finally found a second whale returning their call. They're not alone. Only 1 in 10 family fortunes survive to be passed to a 3rd generation. Can confirm 3rd generation here got squat. They even spent the money meant for my college. When I graduated high school, my college fund had a bit over $300 in it. Were you a victim of Scott's tots? I felt it hard. We were not billionaires, but my dad burnt through Former in properties. Now there is nothing left, and he lives in my stepmom apartment edit. It was burnt through, not burnt. That makes sense. Generation 1 works hard and creates the wealth that they then pass down to Generation 2. Generation 2 didn't have to work hard to get the wealth and therefore doesn't appreciate it. They then go on to squander said wealth, leaving their children with nothing. It's not necessarily squandering the money, but Generation 2 doesn't have the financial pressure to pursue something high-paying. Rather, they pursue their interests and happiness, which doesn't necessarily align with high pay. You could call that squandering, but you could also just call that financial freedom. Also, Generation 1 builds the wealth, splits it between their 5 kids. When those 5 kids have their 3 kids each now, you're splitting what's left between 15. Snakes can fart, and it's incredibly loud. Robins see their reflection in your glasses and go into attack mode. Why the fuck did Batman teach them that? A million seconds is 11 days. A billion seconds is around 30 years. This is a really cool way to conceptualize how much $1 billion actually is. My goal for this is to ask, you know the difference between $1 million and $1 billion? It's about $1 billion. At least in the state of Florida, if you donate your body to science through the state, you need to leave contact information for your family to receive your cremated remains after they are finished using your body. If they can't contact your family, your remains are dumped into the Gulf of Mexico. That the Mission Impossible theme song is literally the letters MI in Morse code. I'm telling everyone, with my trivia, obsessed family, how did I not know 5 decades ago about ... Another musical theme fact. The theme music for Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, final boss of Dark Souls, is played exclusively using the white keys on the piano. Gwyn fought his whole life to prevent an age of darkness, and this extends even into his music. People who use sign language have accents. My best friend uses Auslan and had a finger severely broken, which healed wonky. We say she has a lisp. You can ship bees in the mail. I was waiting in line at the post office, and the clerk came back with a package, and the customer says, "No, these aren't my bees. Is there another one back there?" And I thought, holy shit. Not only can you ship bees, but enough people do this that it could result in a bee mix-up. What in the actual F? I got on the phone and told everyone I could think of. You can also ship baby chicks. As a postal worker, I can confirm both. The amount of live insects being shipped through the mail is crazy, and my biggest fear is the package getting caught in a piece of mail processing machinery and getting ripped apart and having the contents come out. Unfortunately, it's happened many times, and the worst was the live crickets that went everywhere. Just another hazard of the job. I forget the exact percentage, but a ridiculous number of those diagnosed with adults, as adults are diagnosed after their child receives a diagnosis first. It seems like that is happening with autism too. Little boys being tested only to find that the mothers are autistic also. It's a really interesting thing to see. That's 'cause girls didn't have AD in the 80s. We were just lazy screw-ups. You're so smart, you just need to apply yourself and try harder. I saw an article the other day that said Christmas Day, emergency rooms see the largest uptick of broken dicks than any other day of the year. Y'all stay safe out there today. I've been here at work in the for 2 hours and haven't broken my dick yet. Wish me luck. Major props to you for working on Christmas. Thank you guys for all you do. You don't get enough appreciation. Or you made my little black heart grow with that comment. I'm happy to serve my community. Same reason the most common birth month is September. I just realized my parents must have actually liked each other 1 year on Christmas. My parents' birthdays are both at the end of December, and I'm born end of September. That was fun to figure out. Why Christmas, though, as opposed to, say, Valentine's Day? Kids are busy playing with the toys. Morning sex. You have to get revaccinated for whooping cough as an adult. I didn't know this until I caught whooping cough in my late 30s. It was honestly one of the worst things I've ever been through. I slept outside in a tent as I was keeping everyone awake. I would cough until I either vomited or passed out, and this went on for weeks. I broke a rib and split intercostal muscles. You're supposed to have boosters every 10 years as an adult, and it really made me understand how babies and small children can and do die from the infection. It starts out very much like a simple cold, slightly sore throat and runny nose. It then progressively gets worse with a cough and tightness in the chest. Now, every time I get a slight cold, I produce a horrible cough that sounds like a braying donkey, even when I feel fine. I wish I knew about needed to get a booster vaccine. Now I tell everyone. Same for tetanus. I knew tetanus was every 10 years, so last time I went to get a tetanus shot, they gave me a tap shot for tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis, whooping cough. I found out about that when I took my daughter for her vaccines. She was freaking out, and the nurse said, "Bet your mom is due. Let's look it up." Sure enough, so I sat through mine first, so she would get hers. Bitch. Ha ha ha. A hot spoon on a bug bite destroys the protein that makes it itchy, and subsequently the itching stops. How hot? Like hot tap water hot? I do this. Tap water hot is usually hot enough. Let the spoon rest under the hot water for 30 seconds or so. Then hold it on your bug bite for about 30 seconds. Works pretty well. Try it with a hairdryer and hold it until you can't anymore. 10 hours of blissful itchlessness. The first land predators were probably big marine scorpions. They're more aggressive but less well-funded than army scorpions. Air Force scorpions have the highest budget, but that's only because of all their equipment. What do we even know about the Coast Guard scorpions, right? Woody Harrelson's dad was the first man to assassinate a federal judge. Woody Harrelson's dad may also be Matthew McConaughey's dad. Hot tups, people, Matthew, Mokunoke. Mom started, Woody Harrelson, brother, rumor, 7,972,229. Buffalo sauce is just hot sauce with butter. I'm from Buffalo, can confirm this is real, although for the best, most authentic experience, get Frank's hot sauce. Anyone old enough to remember when old dog shit will turn white? It doesn't happen anymore because they made a change to the dog food. Wasn't that because of bone meal in the food? Freaky. The deadliest cat in the world is also the tiniest. The African black-footed cat has an average success rate of 60% when hunting, more than twice that of a lion. Technically, the tiniest cat in the world is the rusty-potted cat with an average weight of 3.5 Elbzone 0.59 cat. But the average African black-footed cat weighs in at 3.6 Elbzone 0.62 kg, so suck it, Trebek. I googled both of these cats. They are heartbreakingly adorable.
Like schnookums. Oh my.
I don't know why this blows my mind, but if you have a problem with working out a percentage, flip the numbers and see if it makes more sense. 5% of 200 is the same as 200% of 50, is the same as 50% of 50, is the same as 50% of 80. Try it. It's awesome. Blue Men group is not the same 3 men. The few major cities with regularly scheduled Blue Men group shows have 7-9 men. It's also not a support group for sad men. Not everyone has internal monologue or ability to mentally picture things. That blew my mind when I found that out. I do constantly. When I read a book, I see a movie of it in my mind as I'm reading. How hard is it for people that can't? So you don't get a flash of an image when I say, think of an apple? I know the details that make up an apple and can describe one to you, but nope, no immediate mental visual. Just so you can't visualize shapes and rotate them around to see other angles on them. Related question, how well do you estimate the size Tupperware to use for a specific leftover? This is not the first time that I've run into the fact that other people are able to create a literal picture of something mentally, but it is the first time I've realized that they can rotate the picture. Also, I'm not the person you're replying to, but to answer your question anyway, Paulie can rotate the picture. Yay, it's really useful for finding that one puzzle piece with 3 innies, 1 oti, and a fat top right shoulder. Daydreaming 2.0, useful in designing things and interior decorating. I think the weirdest part of this to me, as someone with an internal monologue, is that people without one must experience reading differently than I do. Like when I read, whether I'm conscious of it or not, I hear every word that I'm reading. My internal dialogue is the reason I hate reading. I can read texts, but my mind just zooms of somewhere completely different. So I have to reread everything all the time. Luckily, I don't have that problem with audiobooks. This is why I give my internal monologue silly accents when I'm reading things. Tax forms are much more interesting when read by Nigel Thornberry. If there's some sort of horrific injury at an accident scene, like a limb sliced off or a decapitation, emergency workers who are first on the scene will warn the other workers on their way so they can mentally prepare for it. So if you're reporting an accident, be explicit in describing injuries so your people can prepare. My spouse, who is a chef, was the second person to stop at a motorcycle accident where the victim's leg was hanging by a thread. 911 wouldn't let them tourniquet the leg despite a very clear description of the wound. Yeah, he died. Turned out to be my buddy's dad. And people wonder why they don't want to talk about common motorcycle accidents. Sharks are older than trees. Sharks are even older than Polaris, the North Star. There is almost certainly a cold water shark swimming around in the Arctic that has been alive since before America was a country. Imagine living the first 90% of your life in relative serenity, and then all of a sudden, your entire fucking habitat gets wrecked in the last 10%. Really, the last 40 years has to be a mind fuck. Over 50% of holiday shoppers have not paid off their credit card purchases from last Christmas. Edit. My source came from when I looked this up in Thanksgiving. The number is closer to 25-30% today. Still a crazy state. When putting your fitted sheet on your bed, go opposite corner to opposite corner, like you're making an X. All my life I've struggled with the fitted sheet coming off the mattress and my bed sheets becoming a mess until a few weeks ago when I read a comment on Reddit. It's changed my sleep and comfort in my bed. On average, 79% of US adults are literate in 2021. 21% of adults in the US are illiterate in 2022. 54% of adults have a literacy below 6th grade level. The Catholic Church used to consider beavers as a type of fish for Lent meals due to their aquatic lifestyle and scaly tail. It takes the average abusive relationship survivor about 8 tries or breakups before they successfully leave their abusive partner for good. If you want to reheat white rice and have it be just as tasty as the first time you cooked it, you put it into a strainer and pour hot water over it. It comes out like you just cooked it and all fluffy again. Preferably really hot water from like a kettle. When a woman goes under anesthesia for surgery, the doctors can, without your express consent or knowledge, perform a vaginal exam on you for practice, and it's legal, at least in some places in the US. This applies even if your surgery has nothing to do with your genitals or reproductive organs. Every time this comes up on Reddit, I say the same thing. This is something that you should write to your state legislators about. Doesn't matter your political orientation or whatever you think of us government. Legislators love to pass laws. This is an easy win for them, and in particular for anyone who is at all involved in health issues or women's issues, something they can mention in re-election campaigns. They can copy the language from a state that already has the law on the books. It's easy. It's just not a well-known issue. That's why there's no law against it in many states. Edit. Generally, the only opposition to making this type of sexual assault a crime or at a minimum malpractice is the doctor's lobby. Maybe a dumb question, but is this something that could go to the federal level? Why do we have to go state by state asking to not be raped? I've explicitly forbidden this every time I've been under for any reason, and luckily, the docs have so far been as horrified as me. That's good to know, that they're also horrified, I mean. Apparently it's very common. Do you just write on your intake paperwork, "Boo, don't touch my vagina"? This is horrible. I've had easily 50 surgeries in my life, and now I'm wondering if anyone did anything to me. I have written this as an extra on my consent form, something like, "I do not consent to any pelvic exams or breast exams for educational purposes during X procedure," and then mentioned it to the doctors, nurses, and anesthesiologists when we spoke, just to make sure as many people as possible who were going to be in the room knew. I had the same surgeon for multiple surgeries, and while they were aware of the practice, they too were horrified by it. No one had any issue with me bringing it up. Yes, it happened to me. I couldn't understand why I was so sore. I needed pain medication for the feeling that I had, and the surgery had nothing to do with that area. I thought I had been raped. Having been previously raped, I knew what it felt like. This needs to be made illegal. To me, that is rape too. Legally, it meets the definition of rape, so I don't know why it's not illegal. Honestly, if they just asked permission and only did what I signed off on, I'd probably be just fine with them doing those horrid exams while I was knocked out. Non-consensual penetration which caused pain, yay, I'd call that rape. I was horrified when I first learned of this practice via a Night article gift link. What the actual fuck? That is terrifying. That's seriously insane. Here's a paper with a map showing the laws by state. Update. These 20 states require some sort of consent. As of November 22, 2022, there are 20 states, 40% with pelvic examination laws: Arizona, Arkansas, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Louisiana, Maine, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Texas, Ottawa, Virginia, Washington, all of which only apply to patients anesthetized or unconscious. An additional 13 states, 26%, have proposed pelvic exam laws. Georgia, Indiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, of which 11 only pertain to anesthetized or unconscious patients. The two proposed bills from Nebraska and Oklahoma do not yet define the parameters of their proposed laws completely. Edit. These states do not have laws that require consent. There are 34% states: Alabama, Alaska, Colorado, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Vermont, West Virginia, Wyoming, that have not passed any laws regarding pelvic examinations under anesthesia or unconscious patients. 15 of 20 states' laws, 75%, applied only to pelvic exams and not to breast or rectal exams. Virginia's was the only pelvic exam law that applied to medical students and not to all healthcare providers. Edited to make it clearer that the laws are requiring some sort of consent. The melted acetate that a cigarette smoker inhales from the filter of a cigarette could be a substantial driver of lung cancer. Tobacco isn't good for you either. But medical researchers have known for decades that the filters don't do a damn thing to reduce the health impacts of tobacco, and in fact, they may be introducing carcinogens. Quarter-life crises are developmentally appropriate. Emerging adulthood is super interesting.